The Inventor, right?
Yeah, so I went and saw The Inventor, and it's a very, it's a small movie. It felt like an indie movie. And when I say small, I'm not saying like, it was like, it felt like it was small in scope, and it was much more of an intimate affair, like, stop motion animation. It had some traditional 2D animation in there as well, kind of mixed in with the stop motion. In the credit sequence, they kind of give you a little bit of the peek into the behind the scenes of how they made it all happen. And it's really
Oh,
cool
neat.
always kind of watching that process. I mean, how
Yeah,
involved it
totally.
is. I believe like Universal put this movie out, and it's a pair of directors directing it, and it's based on the life of Leonardo da Vinci. I don't think this is meant to be like, uh, a perfect portrait of his life as a real person, but it is more about, I think, Leonardo da Vinci as an artist, as a mathematician, as like an inventor, as just a thinker, and it really dives deep into his curiosity and trying to figure out like what is the meaning of life. And
Yeah.
while I think the central theme of this movie that it took me a while to kind of like land on this, because like when I walked out of the movie, I was like, what did I just, like, I had no idea what I had, like, I was a little lost on the reason for this movie existing.
Right.
But also like, I was literally the only person in the theater, as I found out when I like finally walked up and left during the credits. So I saw it, but then, in fairness, I saw it on a weekday afternoon. So I'm like, for a movie like this, which isn't like a big movie anyway, it's unlikely there will be. I didn't expect to be the only person in the theater, but I was. Um,
Wow.
but nonetheless, I think it's a movie that if you want to go see something that's lighthearted, it's got some good voice talent, like Stephen Fry voices Leonardo da Vinci. I think Daisy Ridley's in there. You have Marion Cotillard as well, voicing, I think, the mother of King Francis I. So there are some good moments in the movie. Ultimately, it kind of shows how Leonardo da Vinci's character struggled to really do everything he wanted to do as somebody who was curious about like what is life all about, what is the soul, what who are we on the inside. Like he would do dissection with like dead human bodies, and that was of course seen as very macabre back in the day. So like they kind of show
Right.
like how he's doing that while hiding that from his royal employers. Like he starts off in Rome, and then he goes off and works for King Francis I in France, and he's all of his work is basically being paid for and financed by these royalty and kings
Right.
and queens and everything. But that also means they want him to kind of do what they want him to do. So his
Always a
struggle
string
to
attached.
exactly that was a big key in the whole movie, that he wants to do all of these things because he at the end of the day is just really curious as an explorer, as an inventor, but he also has to kind of satisfy his masters, if you will. And
Right.
I read a review in the New York Times where they, by virtue of this, compared it to like Oppenheimer, which I was like, that's an interesting comparison. But I sort of understand because again, like Robert Oppenheimer, like this man who was incredibly fascinated by the idea of quantum mechanics, and then how that played into the making of the atomic bomb. But then he was of course working under the U.S. government, and like there's certain orders and certain prerogatives of like the people in power that you have to kind of follow. And of course, the
Right.
second half of that movie is all about how he got discredited because he was speaking out against the development of the hydrogen bomb. And it's sort of there are some similarities here in that in the Inventor that are like that, where Leonardo da Vinci is trying to build this ideal city, where it's going to have perfect infrastructure and make it a better life for not just royalty, but for everybody living in the city. But the king is most worried about throwing this party where he's going to bring all these other kings of Europe, and he wants a big statue to stroke his ego built for him there. And that's the only thing he keeps asking him about. So, there's like certain back and forth on that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a movie that you can go watch with your kids. It doesn't have any really mature themes. It's a fun time at the theater if you're into stop motion animation. It's not the kind of movie that you're going to be able to recognize, like, oh, it's not a Pinocchio, it's not like one of those Disney movies, so it's not really meant to it's a little more experimental than that. So that would be my one downside, is that if you're going in for like a storybook kind of a moved film with that kind of gets wrapped up in a bow at the end, this isn't exactly that, and it's a little abstract in certain areas. The pacing is a little uneven at times, but ultimately it's a movie that I think it's, you know, if you have some time and you don't have anything else that you feel like watching in theaters, then go check this out, because after all, Barbie's not in theaters anymore, so you gotta go see something else. I mean, I watched Barbie like 4 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something else lighthearted, hopefully.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly, like, it's good counter programming to something like A Haunting in Venice, which is, you know, not exactly lighthearted.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, guys, let us know in the comments, like, what do you think about The Inventor? Is this a movie that was even on your radar? Is this something that you want to go check out? Or if you did see it, what did you think about it? Let us know in the comments. And of course, like and subscribe for more movie reviews like this.